Last week I put out a video regarding a secret FAQ that the Games Workshop events team put out for their event Tacoma Open regarding pivot and vehicles such as Raiders, Impulsors, Hammerheads, etc. You can go watch that video. There's a full breakdown on why that video is very important. But I think Games Workshop responded. Kinda. This is a bit of an off-the-cuff video because as of today, the 1st of August, Games Workshop have put out a new update to the Pariah Nexus Tournament Companion, the core rules updates and rules commentary, as well as an FAQ for the Gene Stealer Cults and the Adeptus Sororitas Codex. Now, there's a couple of things to go over, but one of the important ones is that the pivot value regarding the Raider has been made into an official rule, which is something I called for in the video, so they did respond. Kinda. But I thought we'd go over those changes and just like have a look what's actually changed. So as you can see, updated today, there's been no article as of yet. There's been no update. I had no idea about these updates, so I thought we'd have a look together. Now this is 1.2 with rules commentary 1.4. So anything that's highlighted green is what was changed last time as far as I'm aware, and anything that is red is brand new. So the first change is regarding moving units, such as moving anything that is not, excluding vehicles that do not have the walker keyword. So anything that is not a walker and is a vehicle doesn't benefit from this. They can move in a straight line and it can be moved through any space that a base can fit. So this affects things that are traditional vehicles that aren't on a base. They can't move through where their base fits. Maybe this can also like affect like impulses and stuff, because it's anything that does not have the walker keyword can go through gaps that the base can fit. So I presume it means that walkers can kind of like squeeze through gaps because they're a bit more malleable rather than like a big brick of iron like a Rhino or whatever. Or again, like if you were talking about models on a base, like an Impulsor and stuff like that. Now, the big change is obviously the one I mentioned at the start is the pivot values change. We've now got a full table for each different type of vehicle. As you can see, models that are not on a round base, excluding monster and vehicle models, get a pivot value of 1. This is anything that's on an oval base that isn't a vehicle, such as bikes, such as like beasts, etc. Monster or vehicles not on a round base is still at 2. Vehicle models on a round base that is wider than 32 with a flight stem or a hover stand is 2 inches. Aircraft models is 0, and then all of the type is 0. So they've made the pivot value and they realized it didn't work because of the problems it generated, and now they've updated it. So multiple things have different pivot values because of previously everything had a 2-inch pivot value or 0. So now they made it things like bikes have a 1-inch pivot value, and which is like really nice for them. And now they clarify that models that overhang their base have a pivot value of 2 inches if it's a vehicle, such as the flying vehicles, such as mentioned, Raiders, Impulsors, etc. So this is a good change, and I'm very glad that Games Workshop have added it in. This is a W. The problem is like kind of like this clarification, but vehicle models on a round base that is wider than 32mm with a flying stem or hover stand. This works for 90% of the game. But now you have, because of the way that these keywords are going to work, you have stuff like crisis suits, commanders, and other weird, like, essentially infantry vehicles like this, like crisis suits, battle suits, crisis suits, broadside suits, and commanders are probably like the 3 I can think of that are like problematic, is for like a better term. Because they are vehicles, they can also go on flight stands, and maybe not broadsides, but crisis suits and commanders especially. They can go on flight stands even though they're on a round base. They come with flight stands as far as I'm aware. And now technically they have a 2-inch pivot value. Now, we can all sit here and go, you know, like crisis suits and commanders are basically infantry or like whatever. They're a vehicle by definition, but like the way they function on the table is much closer to infantry in terms of like how that miniature works. But we can sit here and go, well, maybe they should have a pivot value of 0. It'd just be nice if this was in writing again. Again, I think anyone with half a brain cell is not going to make people pay 2 inch of pivot to move crisis suits which are stood on a base. But if they can take a flight stand, should they be on a flight stand? If they aren't on a flight stand, is that modeling for advantage because technically it has a 0-inch pivot rather than a 2-inch pivot? And if you do put them on the flight stand, are you going to enforce a 2-inch pivot? Because it's a model that's on a round base, it's pretty much always, it doesn't overhang the round base, so pivoting makes no difference to this model. It's just one of those things. There's 2 quite large changes on this page. Obviously, Big Guns Never Tire refers to vehicle or monster units making a ranged attack. As I've just mentioned, crisis suits, this means they can now use Big Guns Never Tire as the unit rather than individual model. And I don't really 100% know what this clears up. It just kind of clarifies a monster unit or a vehicle unit can use big guns, never tire, and shoot in combat, etc. Which, again, I think that's like kind of like what they're trying to address. But it's just probably just like a weird one where they said model, but it doesn't actually matter whether it's model or the unit. It's just probably tidying up wording here. But the other one is this change to indirect. Now, obviously, indirect had a huge change in the previous balance data slate, saying that you can only hit on a 4+, 1 to 3 fails no matter what. But now it says weapons with the torrent ability cannot be fired using the indirect ability. So basically what this means is if you have a flamer weapon, like a torrent weapon, an auto-hitting weapon, you can't use it indirectly. Now, I think the reason for this is to kind of address Thousand Suns, such as Infernal Masters, with Thousand Suns Flamers, like Rubric Marines. Obviously, they're a very strong faction, and they have a stratagem called Warp Sight. So I think it's if they can see another Psyker, they can shoot with their line of sight instead, as indirect. Obviously, if you've got auto-hitting weapons and now they're making only hits on 4+, it kind of makes sense that they can't then use torrent weapons to basically negate that. This has a direct issue with purifiers. I know it's one of these, purifiers or purgation. It might be purgation. Either way, Grey Knights have a unit that can also shoot indirectly, and it's a unit that can take all flamers. I've used these in the past. They're a very, very strong unit, but they have been directly hit as well. They can't use indirect with their flamers now either. So side cannons for everybody. There's been a little change to the Scouts keyword, or the Scouts ability, which obviously allows you to move before the game starts. It says you make a normal move, and now they've clarified that normal move can be greater than the model's move characteristic. I'm not sure where this might come up, but essentially if you have a move of 6 and you can scout 9 inches, they've clarified that the scout ability overrules your normal movement, so you can scout 9 inches. It says, so while making that move, the distance moved by each model in that unit can be greater than the model's move characteristic, as long as it's not greater than X, and X being scout, whatever that distance is. And they've also clarified, like, dedicated transports can scout. I'm not really sure what it's changing here. It said that everybody in the vehicle has to have scout for the vehicle to be able to use scout. Otherwise, I don't know what's changed. Maybe you can let me know in the comments. I don't understand this one. Now, there's been a couple of general FAQ updates as well. It's like, if a stratagem targets both one or more units from my army and one more units from my opponent's army, can I use an ability to modify that stratagem's CP cost? Because obviously, you have abilities such as the Captain, which reduces the command cost by 1 if you target that unit. It's just clarified that, yeah, you can still do that, even if you're targeting one or multiple units, which is quite nice. And if the stratagem targets 2 or more units, can I use an ability to modify that stratagem CP cost? Again, I think this is the same thing. If you reduce the cost, if you're targeting one or more of the unit that has that ability, they can use that ability to reduce the cost. And then here, timing sequence. If a stratagem using the command phase does not explicitly say that it's using the battle shock step or at the end of the command phase, is it always using the command step? Yes. Again, I'm not 100% sure the intricacies of this question. I'm not sure why it's needed. I'm sure there's something that made it so there was needed to be this question, but basically, if it doesn't say it's in the command phase, it's during the command phase. If it doesn't say it's not in a certain part of the command phase, it's in the command phase. So it's before you roll battle shock. So there might be a thing that allows you to use a stratagem on a unit before taking a battle shock test, because it's during the command step. Because obviously, if it's not clarified, then that's it. Because you essentially start the command phase, have the battle shock step, and then at the end of the command phase, that's usually when you start to score points, which is why you don't score points with battle shock units. That's kind of like the timing of it. Again, not just sure of the intricacies of why this clarification is needed, but it makes sense, so yeah. A transport arriving for strategic reserve must be set up wholly within 6 inches of battlefield edge. This also applies to units that disembark from that transport in the same turn. So essentially, if you have something that like allows you to disembark straight away, no such units disembark normally provided they are set up more than 9 inch horizontally away from all enemy units. So this kind of like forces, if you like had a reserve ability that like, so when they set up, you immediately disembark, like a drop pod arriving for strategic reserve, which just never happens, but you don't have the limitation of battlefield edge, but you can get out within 9, which means you can get a little bit closer than you might normally be able to get with just a strategic reserve. Again, not sure what transport can do this, because I'm pretty sure they said you can't do this unless it says you otherwise. I might be wrong, I can't remember. When a transport with multiple embarked units is destroyed, do all those units have to disembark before rolling for mortal wounds? Yes. This is obvious. Because the whole point of like rolling for something to explode, you do the explosion, then the units disembark, then you roll for mortal wounds. The reason you have to do it this way is because if the whole unit can't get out, you take casualties. So you can actually play around with, and obviously they can like emergency disembark further, but if you can force it where people can't get their entire unit out, you take casualties and then roll for damage. Because if they're not enough space, you can't set them up. So I don't understand this. This is just like one of those really weird gamey questions, which is like kind of funny. When a transport with multiple embark units is destroyed, who decides the order which those units disembark? Again, it's your models. Does it matter? I don't know. I don't know why this needs to be a question, but this is the thing, you know, sometimes there needs to be an FAQ for the sake of it, just to stop stupid people. I saw a funny one on Twitter yesterday. This one, and this, honestly, guys, this is why we can't have nice things. Is it legal to switch positions of a model mid-game? I'm building a Riptide battlesuit, and it has the option of being in a standing or kneeling position. I wonder if it's legal to use the Magnus to swap the stance of the model mid-game to hide behind cover. Thank you for any feedback. Just like, bro. Just like, yeah, sometimes you just can't have nice things, you know? Why does this need to... Is this a serious question? Because I magnetized it, I have a superior advantage on the tabletop than you who glued it. Cringe. Anyway, when using a transport rule that allows you to be split before the battle, such as immolators or venoms, what is the points value of half of that? What is the points value of half of that split unit for the purpose of having placed it in reserve? So yeah, you just it's half the unit, so use half the points. I mean, I don't understand. Some of these questions, bro, these are funny. Can the fire Overwatch stratagem be used to shoot at a unit that just disembarked from a transport? Yes, this includes units that just disembarked from a transport that arrived from the reserves in the same phase. Yeah, because you're technically setting up the unit, right? You're setting it up from a transport, which is fine. It's nice to have the clarification on that one because not everyone realizes that. Are the limits on reserves and strategic reserves separate? Strategic reserve units are also reserve units. As such, any restrictions placed on reserve by mission pack are also applied to strategic reserves. You know, like sometimes you just read and you're like, why is this asked? I think I've done that for the past 6. Do units in reserve meet the requirements for being eligible to shoot? Yes, units in reserve are eligible to shoot. However, unless at least one of that unit has an eligible target for one or more of his range weapons, that unit cannot be selected to shoot. Again, what is this? What is this referring to? You know? Like sometimes you can just like look at a question and go, okay, that is answered because of this, you know, these units are affected. But like this one, why, what are you trying to do where you need to ask if a reserve unit is eligible to shoot? And why does it need to be eligible to shoot? Why can't it be just uneligible to shoot until it's on the table? What does this mean? Why? Why is this here? So that was the FAQ, the FAQ section of the 34-page document. Now we're into the designer's commentary and just like essentially the glossary of 40k. And the one change that we have is ruins and visibility. Obviously, ruins being that vehicles and stuff have to be holy. Anything has to be holy and to be able to see through, etc. The main change here is that for the purposes of visibility, the main change here being for the purposes of visibility into or through a ruin, visibility to and from such a model that overhangs its base is determined only by its base and parts of that model that do not overhang the base. So what this means is essentially if your model is overhanging off the ruin, but it's on a base, and the base is on the footprint of the ruin, that counts as wholly in. That's essentially what it's saying. So for a vehicle model, excluding walker models that have a base, to be wholly within the ruin, every part of the vehicle or model must be wholly within that ruin. For a monster model to be wholly within a ruin, that model's base must be wholly within that ruin, regardless of other parts of the model. So this is a big change for anything with wings, for example. Again, like Demon Primarchs is a prime example, or any sort of demon or greater demon. Only the base has to be on the footprint for that model to be able to see through or over terrain. Because obviously, I think I would have thought this is like standard anyway, because obviously you measure to everything to the base, and only vehicles you measure to the model, so it makes sense for those to have to be wholly on because they're a vehicle, unless it's on a base. But it's nice to have a clarity. So yeah, so only the base has to be on it to be wholly within. That's basically what this means. So that's it for the rules commentary and FAQ. There was a minor update in the Pariah Nexus Tournament Companion. And I'm pretty sure it's just this FAQ here that says, in the Burden of Trust primary mission, how many times can each player score VP for guarding objective marker they control? Because obviously Burden of Trust is each player scores its 4 VP for each objective marker they control that is not within their deployment zone. Then each objective marker the player controls, they can select one unit from their army to guard that objective marker. And then at the end of each player's turn from the second battle round, the opponent of the player whose turn it is scores 2 VP for each of their units that are within range of and guarding an objective marker they control. So this basically says the player going first can score VP for guarding an objective marker they control at the end of their opponent's second, third, fourth, and fifth turn. The player going second can score VP for an objective marker they control at the end of their opponent's third, fourth, and fifth turn. Because obviously, I think they've tried to make it fair, but that seems really strange that both players can't score in Battle Round 2. Yeah, so basically, if you're going second, you can't score during Battle Round 2 for guarding, specifically, the extra 2 VP. Because I guess the thing is with it is they have one turn, you move out, guard, and then instantly score points. I think that's what they're trying to avoid. So if whoever's going first, they move out, guard, then their opponent has time to react, then they score points. Whereas if you go second, you move, guard, they have one turn to react, and then they're just done. They just score points straight away. Strange one. Definitely a strange one. I've not actually played this mission yet. That's not something I really thought about because I said I've not played it, so it's not really come up, but definitely an interesting change. But that is it for this mission pack. There's nothing else mentioned here. The only other 2 things that are mentioned are G-Stealer Cults and Adeptus Sororitas. They have both got an FAQ today. The first one, being Cult Ambushes, had a change where it says, if your army is factions G-Stealers, you can roll a dice to get models back. Then you place one Cult Ambush marker anywhere on the battlefield is more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. You can set up that unit on the battlefield using a Cult Ambush marker described below. Or if it has the deep strike ability and the reinforcement steps of one of your movement phase, you can set up that unit anywhere. So essentially, I think what Cult Ambush kind of made you, it kind of like hampered you if you had deep strike. You would have to come up through the marker. Now they've kind of gone, oh, actually, you can deep strike as well if you have the deep strike ability, which is a nice little update. And then Hybrid Metamorphs, it says, if at the start of the battle, no more than this unit is equipped with the Hand Flamer, each time this unit makes a Bruise Surge move, it can be moved up to 6 instead of D6. Which is interesting. Let me have a look at the original rule. Okay, so they've basically changed the way it says if every model is equipped with an auto pistol, and now it says if no model has a hand flamer, because you actually swap the icon for an auto pistol. So if you had all auto pistols and one icon, you actually wouldn't be able to Brood Surge 6 inches. But now it's solely if you don't have hand flamers, which is a nice little update. And that's pretty much it for them. And then the only change for Adeptus Sororitas is in the Penitent Host, the stratagem Devout Fanaticism. Essentially what this allows you to do is when you are targeted, a Penitent engine can move D6 towards the enemy. Now they've said after the unit has shot. So basically what could happen if you shot something that was very, very close, it could actually roll straight into combat or something like that, or move out of sight or whatever. It basically was before when you selected it as a target, and there's nothing here about like reselecting targets. So if, let's say, an Imperial Knight a Warlord Titan with its 9,000 guns selected the Penitent unit and it rolled enough to get out of sight, the Warlord has selected the target, but then none of the guns can actually target it, so it'd actually forgo its shooting. Which obviously is a little bit dumb, because usually if it has anything like that, there's like a little caveat at the end. It's like, after this, if it is no longer a valid target, it can reselect targets, but there's nothing here. So they just like nerfed that essentially, but like it's just like a bit of a weird change where it feels like really backwards. But that is everything. That's the little secret FAQ that they've put out today. I don't know. I don't know why they've done it off the cuff, and I don't know why it's today of all days, and they've not actually the FAQ's been out for about an hour or so, or maybe like 2 hours, and they've not said anything. It could be like, conspiracy hat on. It could be because I made a video and they needed to address it. Or the more likely story is, obviously Games Workshop is very friendly with a lot of the big event organisers, and the WTC, or the World Team Championships, is this weekend. But this feels like an update that is like far too late to affect something like that. because they have like months and months of prep, and then the lists come out and nothing changes ever. So I don't really know why this FAQ's come out today, and I don't really know why they've not said anything about it, but I actually have another video that's being worked on about how complex 40k is and how you have to be in the source to keep up, or just subscribe to this YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, please like the video. If you like what I do, I stream every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where I talk all things Warhammer, 40k, Age of Sigmar, and just things around the world, you know? So thanks so much for watching. Thanks to my Discord for going through this, because actually even my Discord is linked in the description to that. It's free to join unless if you're a member. By clicking join and become a member, you get more access to the Discord, where actually the real conversations start happening. They've actually been going through everything, and I've been using those to keep tabs to make sure I've not missed anything. So thanks to those guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time.